Welcome back to week 4. I hope you like the new intro. This week is spent basically all in London. So I hope you enjoy all the sights of London that we saw during our 4th week here. Day in London was spent going to Parliament. That was just Big Ben you saw there. But one thing that I do need to say is that Parliament, you were not allowed to film inside. So I got some really beautiful shots of the building, but I sadly didn't get to film anything while we were in there, except for this opening kind of first hallway. Second night in London, a few of us went and saw Six the musical, and it was absolutely fantastic. And don't worry, this little bit you are allowed to film. Today we headed to the British Museum to take a look at some of their artifacts. This is the Rosetta Stone. This is the actual Rosetta Stone. There's also, I believe, like 7 copies of it. This was an old Egyptian tomb. This is some original work. And this is a fake tomb door. We also learned that statues depicting 2 people, such as this one, a husband and wife, was very uncommon. Now this is the Sutton Hoo ship burial, and the story goes that this lady bought some land back in the 1930s, and it's just so happened that there was a shipwreck that was found in her land that had all of these amazing artifacts. And then the next day we loaded up to go to Battle Abbey and Dover Castle. This is where the Battle of Hastings took place in 1066. And as common with these site visits, here's the monastery that was destroyed by King Henry VIII during his reign. to Dover Castle, and let me just say that Dover Castle has some of the most spectacular views I've ever seen. It's right on the ocean. You might have heard of the White Cliffs of Dover, and it was just an absolutely gorgeous sight. This was set up to show where the king and queen would most likely stay. And a thing that a lot of people don't know is that these places used to be beautifully colored and decorated, even though they look dingy and dull now. They loved color back in these days. We also found an on-site museum about the Queen's Guard, and this was Queen Victoria's Guard and Peter the Sheep, who fought in World War I. Then we headed over to Westminster Abbey. The building of Westminster Abbey ended in 1269, but even to today we've seen coronations, weddings, and funerals. Coronation chair, which has been around for over 700 years. There are also a lot of memorials in Westminster Abbey, such as this one to Sir Isaac Newton and this one to Stephen Hawking. And this is known as the High Altar. This is the tomb of King Henry III. And this was the beautiful tomb of Queen Elizabeth I. Fun fact, this was the only time she was ever depicted as an old woman. This is the choir, the Q-U-I-R-E. And this is the tomb of Mary, Queen of Scots. We went to Windsor Castle, which is one of the Queen's current residences, actually her primary residence. And one way to actually know if she is currently at the castle is that instead of flying the regular Union Jack, they will actually fly the Royal Standard, which is a different flag. Today we went to the British Library to go see a really rare collection of ancient books. And the cool thing about this library is that it kind of functions as a normal library for these really rare books. This is the original Magna Carta. It is so old you can't even read it anymore, but right next to it is a kind of remaster of it where you can actually look and see what it probably would have looked like. This was Jane Austen's portable writing desk, along with an unfinished note. This was an original collection from Charlotte Bronte. And after all the learning, we went over and went to Shrekland.